everybody. Today we're going to be looking at the three major theories of human emotion, better known as the James Lange theory, which is kind of the first, then the Cannon-Bard theory, and then, of course, the two-factor theory of emotion. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Or in this case, for chapter 12, what comes first when you have an emotion? Does your body feel it first, or does your brain feel it? Does that happen at the exact same time? And what about you being a conscious entity? When do you come into play in this picture of human emotion? As we well know, we don't have a lot of answers in psychology, but we have a heck of a lot of theories. And I'm going to start off by going over the big theories of human emotion, starting with probably the simplest one, and that is the James Lange theory. So if we look at the James Lange theory of human emotion, it really is all about this step by step process. You know, the body feels the emotion first, then the brain recognizes it, and then eureka, you are experiencing an emotion. So with James Lange, it's body, then mind, then emotion. Cannon-Bard theory, it's kind of like the event happens, your body feels it, and at the exact same time, your brain processes that you're having this emotion. And then finally, the two-factor theory kind of pulls in this idea of cognitive processes and you having a conscious experience or a cognitive label of going, oh, wow, I am feeling this emotion. I am angry. I am sad. I am happy. But we'll get to that last one in a little bit. So we're going to start off by going over the good old James Lange theory of human emotion. If you ever want to have anything named after you, come up with a theory in psychology, just like William James and Carl Lang did. And of course, their theory of human emotion, while very basic, is easy to understand. So under the James Lange theory of human emotion, you basically have an event that occurs. And after this event occurs that is going to create an emotion or an emotional reaction within you as a human, the body is going to experience arousal. Whether that's high arousal, low arousal, mid arousal, it depends on the event. And at the end of the day, it really depends on you and your reaction to that emotional event. After the arousal occurs, then the brain starts to recognize, oh, I'm feeling this emotion. And that's pretty much the ins and outs of the James Lange theory. Here's an example of it. Let's say tonight or tomorrow, you're in bed, it's the middle of the night, you hear a noise, uh-oh. And you go over, creep over to the window, peek out of the blinds, and there in all of his glory is Jack the Ripper come to murder you in your sleep. That is a pretty startling event that will create a pretty extreme reaction in you, especially because you weren't prepared for it. Now, under the James Lange theory, you have an event like Jack the Ripper come to murder you in your sleep. The first thing that's going to happen under this theory, as reported by James and Lang, is that your body is going to have a physiological reaction to this event. Your heart rate might start to increase. You know, you can feel your heart beating fast in your chest. You might start to shake. You might start to sweat. Heck, you might cry, throw up. Your pupils might dilate, or you might pee your pants. That is the physical reaction to that event. Now, after that, within the James Lange theory, they suggest that after the physical arousal comes, then the mind recognizes that the emotion is actually occurring. So then you feel afraid. So under the James Lange theory, you have the event, the physical arousal, and then you feel the emotion. Here's another example. So if we look at the James Lange theory, it suggests that people's emotions will follow rather than cause their behavioral reaction to the situation. A little wordy, but here it is in all of its glory. James Lange theory, you have an event like Jack the Ripper come to murder you. You experience physical arousal like increased heart rate, pupils dilating, sweating or crying or throwing up. Your interpretation of that physical arousal within your mind is you feel the emotion. In this case, if Jack the Ripper is outside my window at night, I'm going to feel fear. And we know, of course, that fear is a real primal emotion. We all experience it. Here's another example. You are walking down a dark alley late at night. Not a good idea already. You hear footsteps behind you and you begin to tremble, right? You're shaken. Your heart beats faster, your breathing deepens. You notice these physiological changes and you interpret them inside your mind as your body's preparation for a fearful situation, and then you experience fear. Again, the James Lang theory, you have an event, you have a physical reaction, and then your brain, your mind interprets it as an emotion, in this case, fear. Now, if we look at it again, very easy to follow. James Lang theory, you have an event, a physical reaction, and then the emotion. Easy, very cut and dry. Problem is, we've got two more theories on emotion that you can pick from. Now, after the James Lang theory, the next theory that we're going to see is going to be one of my favorites, the Cannon-Bard theory, which makes a lot more sense, but it's not rocket science. Now, the Cannon-Bard theory, the researchers who created it basically said that everything I just went over with you, the James Lang theory, is basically a pile of crap, right? That it doesn't make sense. And they suggested within their theory that the physical reaction is not coming first before the emotional cognitive reaction, but that these two events are playing out simultaneously at the exact same time. So it's not James Lang where you have an event, the body, and then the brain. The Cannon-Bard theory basically says, nope, you have an event, and the body and the brain are feeling those emotions at the exact same time. Now, you can agree to disagree with this, it's up to you, but the Cannon-Bard theory is also highly regarded within Chapter 12. Now, if we're looking at the Cannon-Bard theory, it's interesting again to look at all of these physical or physiological reactions, right? That we have when we feel all of these emotions. For a lot of people, when they get afraid, their heart rate increases. But for a lot of people, when they get surprised, their heart rate increases. Or when they feel like they're in love, their heart rate increases. Or when they're really happy, their heart rate increases. And the Cannon-Bard theory says, well, if you're pinning all your hopes on physical arousal, a lot of these physical arousal examples are the same across the board for a multitude of emotions. So it can't just be physical arousal and then your mind figuring it out if all of these physical arousals are so similar. These two events must be happening at the same time simultaneously. And again, within the Cannon-Bard theory, all roads lead to the brain. And in this case, the road is going to lead to the thalamus. Now, a little bit of a background, again, a little bit of a review of our good old friend, the thalamus. We know that the thalamus is, again, incredibly important in trying to relay information between all areas of the brain. So if you're looking at the Cannon-Bard theory and you're looking at the location of the thalamus right next to the corpus callosum, obviously it makes sense that within all of these emotional reactions, you're going to have very similar physical arousal experiences. And within the Cannon-Bard theory, they are using the thalamus and the role of the thalamus to really try to debunk the James Lang theory. Now, if we move ahead with some really good examples of the Cannon-Bard theory, here's the example that we suggest from Myers, chapter 12. Emotions accompany the bodily responses that are aroused by external stimulus. So again, just like in the case of Jack the Ripper being outside of your bedroom window, in the Cannon-Bard theory, you go over to the window, you see Jack the Ripper, your body's going to have an experience, and at the same time, your mind is going to interpret that emotion, not one after the other, but happening at the exact same time. We have it right here for us as well. The event, Jack the Ripper, coming to kill you. Your body experiences arousal, your heart rate increases, your pupils dilate, you might feel nauseated, you might start to sweat, and at the same time your body is reacting, you are having an emotional experience where you feel fear. Another example, again, you're walking down that dark alley late at night, not a good idea. You hear footsteps behind you, you begin to tremble, your heart beats faster, your breathing deepens, and at the same time that your body is experiencing this arousal, your mind is also having this experience of this emotion of fear. So James Lang theory, body and then mind, Cannon-Bard theory, body and mind working together to have this emotional reaction. And we see this kind of being played out with this gentleman walking on the hiking path, and he stumbles upon a rattlesnake. This is why I don't go hiking. And at the same time, his body has the reaction to seeing this dangerous creature. His mind is also having this emotional reaction to fear. So simultaneous body and mind together, creating an emotion. Now, as we move along, ladies and gents, into the third and final theory of human emotion, we're going to be looking at the two-factor theory. Now, within the two-factor theory, we're starting to see this role of the cognitive process, where you, as a conscious individual, really have more power over your emotions. And within the two-factor theory, created by Stanley Stacher, we see that he is basically taking a little bit from James Lang, a little bit from the Cannon-Bard theory, putting them together and kind of adding this cognitive label aspect to it. And within the two-factor theory, it's kind of explained that emotions are complex, and that if you're looking at the body and the mind and their role in your emotional reaction, it's fair to say that the body and the mind are working simultaneously at the same time. But what about this cognitive experience? When you feel happy, when you feel sad, when you're afraid, there's always that little voice in the back of your head kind of explaining the emotion to you, or at least saying, wow, I feel sad, I feel angry, I'm upset, I'm happy, I'm irritated. So we can't take ourselves out of the equation, and that's why I like the two-factor theory. Here's an example. Within the two-factor theory, it states that people who are already physiologically aroused experience more intense emotions than people who are less or unaroused at the time. So let's say you have these two gentlemen and they're walking at the neighborhood track. And you've got a young guy and he is running miles and he's sweating and his adrenaline is pumping. And then you have another gentleman, and he's a little bit older, and he's just taking a very light and leisurely stroll around the track. Well, at the same time, both the young guy who's been running laps and the older gentleman who's just taking a leisurely stroll see this beautiful woman dancing at the track. Why is she doing that? I have no idea, but she's doing it. And they both see her at the same time. Well, they're both going to experience this attraction, this instant love, this happiness, this physical arousal. But the younger guy who was already physically aroused, who was already experiencing heightened physical reaction, he's going to feel that emotion a lot stronger than the older gentleman who's just been walking very leisurely and taking his time. Within the two-factor theory, it also suggests that the biology, right, our physical reaction to things that we experience and our cognitive reaction are going to interact with each other. But we cannot forget that cognition has a powerful part to play in all of this. So here's a great example. You're driving down the street, right? Minding your own business, obeying all the traffic laws. And out of the corner of your eye, you see an oncoming car that is about to hit you, right? They're about to T-bone you. You're about to total your car. At the same moment, within the two-factor theory, where you are about to be in a car accident, you are going to have a physical reaction to that, right? You might start to sweat. Your heart might start to pound. You might start to scream. That is physical arousal. At the same time of the physical arousal, you are going to have what we consider a cognitive label. And that cognitive label in the moment might be something as simple of, oh my God, they're about to hit me. I'm afraid. I'm scared. You might even say this out loud, or it might just be inside your head. After the body has the experience, after the cognitive labels simultaneously come together, then you would have the emotion of fear. So, kind of like the Cannon-Bard theory, where you have the simultaneous reaction, the body and the cognitive experience, and then emotion. And if we continue along, another great example, you're hiking out on the mountain, you see a grizzly bear approaching you. Not a good idea. The grizzly bear is going to want to make you lunch. At the same time that your body experiences this arousal of increased heart rate and trembling and sweating and trying to run for your life, you are going to have that cognitive label of, oh my God, it's a bear. It's about to eat me, and then the emotion will come out. I have to say, this is probably one of the best charts out there, looking at the three theories of human emotion. And I would encourage you to really look this over, to memorize it. And I'm going to show you an example within real life in a minute of how you can utilize this chart to kind of break down the three different theories. In this example, yet again, you're driving, minding your own business, and a car is coming head on towards you, about to hit you. In the James Lang theory, you have physical arousal and then the emotion of fear. In the Cannon-Bard theory, we can see that physical arousal and the emotion are happening at the same exact time, simultaneously. And in the two-factor theory, we see the simultaneous act of the physical body reacting to the event, the cognitive label of, oh my God, I'm afraid, and then the emotion. So I would encourage you to look over that chart. Now, the three theories of human emotion can be complicated. So many times it's really good practice to kind of run some of your favorite emotions through the chart. And one of my favorite emotions has to be the emotion of cold blooded, right? There are only a few times in our lives where we feel really cold blooded. Many times after somebody has done something bad to us, a friend has kind of stabbed us in the back, and you feel just so savage and barbaric and heartless, and you might want to get back at them, right? You just feel so cold blooded. So I'm going to show, and again, not a good thing to be cold blooded. We want to be empathetic and forgiving, but again, we've all had bad days. So if I take this emotion of cold blooded and run it through the three theories of emotion, we have to start off with an event, a stimulus that would actually produce this emotional reaction in someone. You know, getting cut in line, somebody taking your favorite pencil, that's not going to make you feel cold blooded. But an event like just being dumped in the middle of the cafeteria in front of all of your friends, and then seeing your ex boyfriend or girlfriend going off with somebody new, that could leave you feeling pretty cold blooded. So let's say that did happen, that you just got dumped in front of everybody. You're sitting there and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this just happened to me. Now, some of the physical reaction of feeling cold blooded would be your body temperature might start to drop, right? Your heart rate might start to slow down, or you might have some clenched fist, right? Because why would they ever break up with me, right? Cold blooded. Now, if we look at the three theories of human emotion, and let's pretend it's not the car about to hit you, but that you just got dumped in front of everybody and you're feeling cold blooded, I can take that emotion and run it through the three different theories. So the event would be they just dumped you in front of everybody, you're feeling cold blooded. James Lang theory, you just got dumped, you start to clench your fist, your heart rate starts to slow, you're starting to feel a little bit cold, and then you feel cold blooded. Cannon-Bard theory, you just got dumped, you're starting to clench your fist, you're feeling a little bit cold, your heart rate starts to slow, and at the same time your body is feeling the emotion, your mind feels it too, and you experience the emotion of cold blooded. The two factor theory, you just got dumped, you're feeling your body, clenching the fist, feeling cold, heart rate starts to slow. You have a cognitive label of, oh no, they didn't just dump me. I'm feeling cold blooded. And then you feel the human emotion. Again, ladies and gents, these emotions are complicated. And if I go back for a second, we can see that you can run through any of those emotions within the chart. Now, ladies and gents, this was just a little bit of a review of the three major theories of human emotion. In the next video, we're going to look at the end of chapter 12, which would be the psychology of stress. Obviously, an emotion that none of us have ever felt, right? We've all been stressed out, of course, and I'll be coming back with that video shortly. Thank you. I'll see you later.